Welcome to the Black American channel of the free and the brave. Now today, guys, let's get into this clip with the cackling delusional stool pigeons of The View. And they have a guest today, a Republican guest, none other than J.D. Vance. Now let's watch this as he completely dismantles this group of crows. And I'm going to point out particular left-leaning tactics that's just getting old. Without further ado, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Leave your comments down in the comment section so we can have a conversation. Let's get into it.
You came into office with clear momentum, but when I talk to my friends and family who supported you and the president and still support you and the president, one issue comes up time and time again, and it's the economy. Inflation's up, wages are down, gas prices are starting to drop at news of this Iran deal, which we will get to.
Sure.
What can you say to voters who trusted you to lower costs on day one, and will they be satisfied by November?
Well, I think that's ultimately up to the voters, right? I think voters have every right to expect as much as possible out of their elected representatives. We certainly know that we were elected on a number of mandates. One was to close the border, which I think we've done successfully, exceeded expectations there. Number two was to lower prices, and there's a lot of work to do, in large part because of what's happened over the last few months in the Middle East. But as you said, oil, which got up to $120 a barrel, now is at $80 a barrel. That's going to be reflected in lower fuel, lower food, lower energy prices. But there's a lot more work to do. The thing that I'm proudest about most, because,
Real quick, I'm going to go ahead and say they definitely did campaign on closing the border. I'm completely happy with that. Border has been closed. There has been minimum to zero illegal border crossings. And if they are attempting, they're being caught and being processed properly. Also, gas prices. Now we know this war is the they don't want to call it a war, but what else is it? Is the catalyst that is actually increasing gas prices. But I must say, being a habitual gas recipient, since I have a vehicle, I can see that gas prices are coming down. So I know they're trying to have a new peace deal, some type of deal where Iran can't create a nuclear weapon, things of that nature. And hopefully that goes through soon so those gas prices can get back down. All right. Now, I'm from Texas. I live out on the West Coast where gas prices are absolutely unbelievable. And I just laugh when I see my friends and family back home complain about $3 gas because we're paying almost $7. It's absolutely embarrassing to say out loud, but I cannot wait. We are moving back to Texas very soon.
as some of you may know, I grew up in one of these towns that was forgotten by the leaders in Washington of both parties, is that you're seeing, that's Middletown, Ohio. That's my hometown in southwestern Ohio. It was a proud steel town. I was raised by a grandfather who was a union steel worker, is that those jobs disappeared. Those factories closed down. The thing that I'm most excited about is you do see a large amount of capital investment coming into our country. Factories being built, construction jobs are way up, manufacturing jobs are starting to catch up. So there's a lot more work to do. I think that we're making progress, but ultimately...
And what he's speaking on right now is an effect of the tariffs. Now, of course, people had a lot to say about the tariffs. When you raise prices, then you know, the consumer will have to eat some of those prices. Sometimes the actual company itself eats those prices. It just depends on the relationship that they have in business. Now, what is happening, many companies who work outside of the United States of America are investing by putting manufacturing plants and other types of businesses in the country. And what that does is going to create more jobs. It's going to make costs of things become lower over time. But the thing is, when the tariffs are put into place initially, it's a little rocky, a little unshaky, because people get very apprehensive when you take them out of their comfort zone. And when things change, people are a little bit weary. But sometimes change is good. And we can only hope that what's going on with the tariffs and how they're affecting business in the long run creates, like I said, more jobs, more stability in the economy, and it will make the dollar stretch longer than it is currently.
We're going to make our pitch to the voters in November, and they're the ones who get to decide whether we've done a good job or not, and that's how they're going to vote.
Okay. So President Trump has called affordability a hoax. He said that, not me. He's pouring money into
See, this is how they listen and hear something and then completely distort the actual meaning behind it.
Ballroom of his, and the reflecting pool. Oh, don't forget the Arch de Trompe, I call it, and a White House cage match. All these things. Why is he doing them when you just, everybody knows that Americans are struggling? What is he spending all this money for?
Well, I got to defend the president on the hoax point. What the president said is the idea that Republicans caused the affordability problem is a hoax. And I think that's true. If you go back to the Biden administration, inflation got up to 9% under the Biden administration, okay?
You see what I mean? She said the cost of living, the inflation is a hoax. That is clearly not what he said. And if he said that string of words, there's clearly other context into what he actually meant. Like, it's just crazy how they just take a phrase and then completely run with it and twist it to be the most negative term that has ever been said. It's mind blowing that people listen to this stuff and don't go back and research it, because no matter what anybody says or thinks, Donald Trump is not vile. He's not evil. He's not everything that he's been painted to be. Let's continue.
Right now, it's at 3.5%. By the way, too high. We're doing everything that we can to bring it back down to 2.5%, which is where most people would like to see it. But we inherited an affordability problem. We're doing a lot to make it better. It's going to take a little bit of time. There's a lot more work to do. But the president knows that a lot of Americans are struggling. In fact, he ran on that. He talked about it. And we've done some things and made some good progress on that point.
He just said he loves the inflation.
What he said, Anna, what he
Doing it again. Doing it again. This is ridiculous.
said is that he loves the fact that the inflation is going to come down when this war is over. That's what he said.
That's not what he said.
That wasn't a direct.
That's
Are you
not
his,
what he
wait, are
said,
you
but
his
it's okay.
interpreter or are you his vice president? Come on.
Well, look. What the president said. People were asking about the inflation. They were asking about the affordability problem, which again is very real. And what he said is, "I love the inflation because it's going to come down when the war is over." And now, again, we already see gas prices. Gas prices today, $4.06 a gallon, too high, but way down from where they were just a couple of weeks ago. So there's a lot we got to do, but I think that we're doing as much as we can. We're going to keep on working at it. And again, the American people are going to make their verdict, but I think that we have a very credible case to run on, that we brought a lot of new investment. We're building the factories. That is going to pay serious dividends for the American people over the long haul.
When?
And I just want to interject real quick because, of course, it's the current administration, but how quickly we are to forget that gas prices and the cost of living, everything like that, inflation was way higher during Biden's administration. You know, he had different variables and things to deal with, just as every president does. But we can't just completely forget and negate that happened. Even with the prices and the cost of living and inflation, now everything is lower than what we were dealing with under Biden's administration.
Well, Joy, if you look at manufacturing jobs,
Okay.
those jobs are increasing at a large number. Construction jobs are doing a little bit better. So what happens is the construction jobs to build the factories, and then the manufacturing workers go back to work. That also leads to rising wages. That's one of the things that I'm very proud of, is if you look at the amount that wages are going up now compared to, say, 2022, they're going up way faster. That's a good thing. You know, the affordability problem, again, gas, way too high right now. Certain things way too high. You know, rents have been either flat or down for 12 months now. So there are things that are showing signs of life, things that are showing signs of progress. My view, I'm sure you guys don't agree with it, is that we inherited a mess and we're fixing it. But sometimes it takes a long time to fix a mess.
And also what's happening here is that the ladies of The View, the cackling hens, they are looking at the micro. They're looking at every tiny little discrepancy, and they are putting a magnifying glass on that. While the presidency, JD Vance here, is looking at the macro, the overall picture, the whole war instead of a single battle. And that's the kind of the way you have to look at things, because it's just like chess. You move up here, you move here, you lose a pawn, you may lose a rook. You may even lose your queen. But sometimes things can become collateral, and you have to look at certain things that you can adjust, and then look down the hill to see how it's going to move forward and how it's going to affect things.
Okay.
Mr. Vice President, according to a new report from the New York Times, you were the leading voice behind the scenes to release the Epstein files, and we applaud you for that. And you warned top officials, including top DOJ officials, at strategy meetings taking place inside the Situation Room. We understand that there are tapes of those meetings, that this was a huge problem for the base. The report says you even floated having Tucker Carlson interview Ghislaine Maxwell to clear the president's name, but you were rebuffed by your people. Why?
Well, I'd say, first of all, don't believe everything that you read in any newspaper, whether it's a right-leaning paper or a left-leaning paper, because as you guys know, well, there are things that are true, things that are false, and things that are totally missing context. Well, here's what I'll say. So, number one, I am frankly kind of a conspiracy theory on the Epstein stuff, and that story says that that's one of the things that's true, is that some people called me a conspiracy theory on the Epstein stuff.
Called you a conspiracy
and I love
theorist.
Susie, but absolutely, she thinks I'm a conspiracy theorist on the Epstein stuff, because I think that it's crazy that you had this guy who is clearly a sex predator who is hanging out with a lot of very wealthy and powerful people. Like, that really bothered me. I don't know what's there, of course. Nobody knows exactly what happened unless you were there, but that really bothered me, and I wanted to have full transparency. What I disagree with is the idea that the White House wasn't committed to full transparency. We have to remember, like, I was inside the room when some of these decisions were made. The Epstein Files Transparency Act, the one that the president signed, the one that led to all these files that we're seeing, the emails. By the way, again, sorry, do I have to defend my boss? I know you guys don't always appreciate this, but, you know, one of the things you see in the Epstein emails is that Jeffrey Epstein hated Donald Trump, and that Donald Trump literally reported Jeffrey Epstein to the police. That's one of the things that came out of these files.
I don't know why the left never really acknowledges the fact that Donald Trump rang the alarm on this guy decades ago. He said something was up, something was wrong down at that island. He banned him from Mar-a-Lago. Why does the left never, ever acknowledge that fact? Yeah, Donald Trump's name is littered throughout the Epstein files, but they literally to this day cannot find one piece of that evidence and nail Donald Trump down to anything illegal, not even anything nefarious. It's mind-blowing that we're still holding on to that. And of course, you got the ones that's going to say, oh, but they're not releasing the whole files. Well, why didn't Biden release the whole files? He had 8 years. Sorry, he had 4 years to do it. He didn't do it. Why not? You can't answer that question either.
Friends for about a decade. And remember, he signed that Transparency Act under duress when some Republican women, Congresswomen like Lauren Boebert, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, did not give in to his pressure of not signing. He brought Lauren Boebert into the Situation Room to pressure her into caving on not voting for that bill.
So let me respond to that. So
That's all true.
Let me respond to that. So number one is, yes, Donald Trump, and he said this, he knew Jeffrey Epstein back in the 1980s. He also threw Jeffrey Epstein out of his club when he found out he was a creep and reported him to the police. That's something that the media often misses when it reports the story. They tell the fact that they knew each other in the 80s, which the president himself admits. They ignore the fact that he narked on him to the police and led ultimately to Jeffrey Epstein's downfall. To that point, Anna, you know the Republican Party.
Yo, apparently everybody knew Jeffrey Epstein. He was that guy. People were shouting him out, giving him thanks during award shows. Oprah loved him. All of the models and actresses and actors and whoever the case may be, different celebrities. Everybody knew Jeffrey Epstein. Just because you knew the man, you got a photo with him. And even if you're in the files, that's not saying anything about you. Now, I do know that they have evidence on people. Now, whether that be Bill Clinton, Prince Harry or Henry, whatever their names are, or Donald Trump, if they are guilty of something illegal, I am going to always be a believer that they should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, no mercy, especially in this particular situation, because they would be in a position of power and using that power, abusing that power to take advantage of young people. Now, I am not in agreement with that, but until there's evidence that comes out that convicts Trump, we just got to say you got nothing.
Down.
Well, it's one of the
Jeffrey
things that led
Epstein's
to law enforcement investigation. But on the point that you
And it
made,
was allegedly over a real estate deal that they got into a fight over.
but the email says
And they
actually
didn't just know each other. Let's just be truthful and transparent
Well,
here. They
all the
didn't just know each other.
He's in a lot of
They were
pictures.
incredibly close friends.
he reported him to the police. That's what I'm saying. That is objective. That is
He's
objectively
mentioned
true.
the president.
But animate,
Continue.
Okay,
but
guys,
animate another
wait,
point that I think would be if I may,
No, no,
because
go
Anna made a
ahead.
very important point.
Just arguing against the fact that Donald Trump turned him into the police. And then they're just like, that doesn't matter. They got some photos together. That doesn't matter. They knew each other. Okay, and what? So what? You can know so many people. I know some family members, absolute criminals. I got photos with them. Does that mean I'm a criminal? Does that just because you know somebody, you got a photo with them, that means you got to go down for everything illegal that they did? Come on, guys. That's not making any logical sense.
This question about did Donald Trump release these files only under duress from Republicans? And Anna, you know the Republican Party probably better than I do. The idea that Donald Trump runs around afraid of Republican congressmen as opposed to the other way around is kind of crazy.
Well, it was a bipartisan, though. It was Republicans and Democrats.
But because the Republicans control the House and the Senate, particularly the Senate, you need the Republican sign off. What the president did is, look, I will say this again. I was in there in the meetings. He was very frustrated that the Democrats were making this about him when he's like, look, I threw the guy out of my club. I am the guy who reported him to the police, or one of the people who reported him to the police. The president was frustrated about that, absolutely. But he eventually came to say, you know what? Let's just get everything out there. Let's have this out in the public. And he actually called the senators. I was there. He called the senators and said, you know what? Pass this bill, I'll sign it, and that was it.
Well, then let me follow up briefly. Let me follow up briefly.
Yes.
It sounds like you believed that there would be men in the files who would be held accountable, rightfully so. And the American people are with you on this. Why haven't we seen the release of over 2.5 million additional Epstein file documents? It seems like you are someone that is on the right side of history on this.
The fact that they got 2.5 million documents, like, that's a lot of documents to go through and figure out what was going on, investigate, connect the dots and find all the paper trails, the electronic email trails, the text messages, the bank statements, the flight paths, the airlines, the travel, the accommodations, hotels, things of that nature, and talk to witnesses. That's a lot of work to do. I don't even think they can get that done within the presidency, even if people are even working on it. But 2.5 million files, that's crazy.
So we have released, I think it's 6 million files or 6 million pages of documents. My understanding is that 2.5 million, Sonny, I'm going to check on this to make sure, but my understanding is that a lot of those are duplicates of things that have already been released.
So then
we're not
release them,
holding,
but we're not
holding anything back. Some of those things are like the courts have to order you to release them. So that was one thing that we confronted. You talk about these situation room meetings is, there's a big bunch of files that existed, I think in the Southern District of New York, or maybe it was some other jurisdiction. But we were like, we want to release these files, but you need the court approval in order to release the files. Sometimes we would apply to release the files and the courts would say no. So those particular documents, I would need to actually know exactly what you're talking about.
3.5 million documents were released, and my understanding is 2.5 million have not been released.
Those may have been the ones that are under court. So I don't know what the documents you're talking about, but I'm telling you.
But JD Vance went into the lion's den, the lioness den, right? Call them what you want to. Stool pigeons, cackling hens, the delusional duckies. So he went in there, and of course, pretty much the entire time you have to defend Trump's second term at president. And no matter what you say, no matter how you say it, they're going to have something to say. And it's so funny to me that they cannot acknowledge anything that may be positive that comes from the president, anything that is actually moving the country in the right way. They need to have more conservative Republican pundits on this particular show, because they are the ones that actually give some pushback and give some reason and logic behind a lot of the topics that they speak on. Now, go ahead and Like, share, and subscribe. Leave your comments down in the comment section. What do you think about JD Vance going on The View? How well did he do? What do you want to know? What should he have said? And anything that he should not have said. Leave your comments down in the comment section so we can have a conversation. This is the Black American channel of the free and the brave.